Got a big idea but not sure where to start? Shopify makes it easy. From stunning templates to AI tools that write your product descriptions and boost your marketing, Shopify helps you build, sell, and grow fast. It's trusted by millions, from startups to brands like Gymshark and Mattel. And with 24/7 support, you're never on your own. Turn your dream into with Shopify. Start your $1 a month trial today at shopify.com/dax. That's shopify.com/dax.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
Pat O. You already know what I'm going to ask. Can you just go ahead and answer the question?
Just start talking about myself. What an excellent way to start a podcast.
Yeah.
I went turkey hunting this weekend, and the turkeys were very elusive. I was outwitted by turkeys.
Oh no!
So yeah, I did not kill any. Which, all right, that's the way it is. I mean, the first time, only my second time hunting in my whole entire life, unless you count, that vast spread of my 20s where I went out whaling every weekend. But no, I mean, this was only my second time hunting. So the first time I went duck hunting, did fairly well. Bagged at least one duck, if not more, but that's kind of a firing squad, so it's kind of hard to tell who shot what. But this time, no, we didn't even see any turkeys, and but it was still a good time. I got to go with my nephew who's 17, and I play very well to a 17-year-old boy audience. That's kind of like my demographic, so we had a lot of laughs. And just kind of hung out in the woods. It was me, him, and one of his friends. And just sat there for like 6 hours. Fucking talking shit, talking about beer and pussy and shit. And that was it. And then, nothing happened. So we're like, well, let's just go home. And that was day one. And then pretty much turned around and did the same thing the second night. Second day, got up at the butt crack of dawn. And we heard a lot of turkeys, but we did not see any. So
you heard them gobbling?
Yeah. Especially the second day, because we got up extra early, and they're supposed to be a hard animal to hunt because they are very intelligent, and they have great senses. And saw lots of deer. So I'll be back out that way come fall for deer season. But it was a good, I need hobbies and stuff, especially post open heart surgery. They wanted me to find things, stress-free things to kind of dedicate my time on. And I chose stalking animals with guns. And
yeah,
in true pedo fashion. But it was a good time. And then Saturday night, I watched a lot of that, and I kind of briefly mentioned it. We were texting back and forth. That Waco documentary about the after. Yeah, which I really want to do a show on. But so Showtime is running this miniseries with Michael Shannon, which I guess is a sequel to a miniseries they did a couple years ago that was actually about Waco. With David Koresh and all that stuff. And this is about the trial of some of the surviving Branch Davidians. And that's one timeline. And the other timeline is Michael Shannon, who I guess was one of the ATF agents from the original documentary. He foils a bank robbery with somebody that has ties to a white extremist group. And he begins to piece together that one of the things that the Waco tragedy did was really and though not saying that the Branch Davidians were white supremacists, because there were definitely black people in their organization, but any of those separatist groups that kind of lived in their little compounds like Ruby Ridge or whatever and lived off the land and just kind of wanted to do their own thing, seeing the government rush in and then kill all those people, and that whole thing going down the way it did really kind of made all these groups kind of band together and led to kind of the organization of domestic terrorism. So, and they bring up a lot. It was It's crazy. I'm sitting there watching it, and maybe this says more about something being wrong with me, but I'm sitting there watching the mini series, and they're talking about all this stuff that I know not a lot about, but they bring up like the Turner Diaries. Which, are you familiar with those?
No.
Okay, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be, because you're a good person. But the Turner Diaries is like basically a book that's like, I don't know. It's something that I think they give you at like Nazi recruiting fucking things, and it's about, how there's going to be this uprising, and the book ends with them storming the Capitol and lynching lawmakers that are too liberal and stuff like that, which we kind of almost saw a couple of years ago. So I gonna kind of turn that into a hole that I want to go down, because the other thing I want to talk about that happened since we last spoke is I feel like the whole flat Earth thing kind of reached its electrifying conclusion. Last week was recording Thursday's episode of Welcome to the Grindhouse for Show Us Your Crits, and the live stream camera was working. You could see my son's bedroom in all his glory. And originally I was wearing my red Bigfoot Society tank top, and it fits a little bit snugger than those previous pictures that from where I wear that thing at Withville. I was walking around all day with my fucking arms hanging out. Anyway, so I did a quick costume change, but Show Us Your Crits, or I'm sorry, Welcome to the Grindhouse last Thursday. YouTube stream, it was awesome. And one of the things that I guess they want me to do every episode now is to do a movie review. And the first week I had done Mad God, which is the stop motion thing that you guys can find on Shudder. It was really popular. It came out last year. And then this week I had to do something, and I kind of found out at the last minute. I didn't realize this was going to be like my assignment every week was to do a movie review. And I was like, well, what the fuck am I going to talk about? I threw it up on Twitter. I did a Twitter poll, and it came down between Level, the 2021 Flat Earth documentary, and Rise of the Evil Dead. And I thought, well, I could do Rise of the Evil Dead. We just did a Y2K movies episode about it, right? I'm like, but I'm gonna do fucking Level. Let's just throw this out there. And did it, and kind of gave my 15-minute spiel about Flat Earth and the Level documentary, and how nothing is more entertaining to me than mental illness and all this stuff. And had kind of a good laugh, but at the same time, I feel like that I was somewhat respectful with the topic. I didn't completely fucking torpedo it, and get towards the end of my little spiel, and come to find out that one of the co-hosts for Welcome to the Grindhouse that I've been doing, this was now my like third or fourth week doing it, never knew it, but one of my co-hosts is an ex-NASA scientist. Who's now a science fiction author and an avid gamer. When I looked up the guy's credentials online, he is legit. Sci-fi author and former military man Terry Mixon. And it was a very interesting exchange, because I was not expecting that. I was not expecting to have somebody that worked for NASA right there. And, I'll be honest, like, he was a good sport about it. He one of the first things he said is when he worked for NASA for 18 years. And during that time period, when people asked him what he did for a living, he would tell them that he worked for the agency that faked the moon landing. And, I went on to ask him, he's like, ask me anything you want. What do you want to ask me? And I asked him why we hadn't been back to the moon yet, because we haven't, And here we had, just a couple of weeks ago, Elon Musk tried to fly one of his $3 billion Dragon rockets or whatever, and it got 2/3 into the stratosphere and blew up. How is it that with today's technology we could spend all that time and all that money trying to get back to where we were 60 some years ago, and we can't fucking do it? And his response to that was, well, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe we don't really want to go back. And, he pointed out the fact that there are two completely intact Saturn rockets outside Mission Controls in Texas and Florida. Both of those rockets were built and are ready to fly to the moon, and were not flown to the moon because the government would not allocate money for fuel, which is ridiculous to think about and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would you spend the time and effort to build the car but not put gas in the tank? You know what I mean? Like suddenly you don't got money for gas, but you just built this car. It makes no sense. But the government works that way sometimes. So yeah, hopefully we're going to have him on the show in the future. I sent him an email and I copied you on that. Hopefully that one didn't get deleted as well. And that'll be it with the flat earth thing. I think we could finally put that one to bed. Stop talking about that. That's like
could finally put it to bed.
Yeah, that's like the life cycle that these stories have in my head. You know what I mean? about 3 weeks. I'm interested in these things for like 3-week periods, and then they reach some kind of natural crescendo, and then I move on to the next one. So I'm ready to put flat earth to bed and focus on Waco. So that was it. How was your weekend? You getting ready for the thing next weekend? Or?
I am, yeah. So I went. Me and Ann went back on Saturday, and finished up our room that we're decorating, and it looks great, and it's exciting. There's lots of fun stuff for everybody to see and look at and read. At the end of it, because again, as you guys know, I have this alien art exhibit coming up, and so. It's being held at the Secret Chamber House of Oddities and Artwork, March 6th, 1 to 9. I'll be there around 3 or 4. But anyway.
That's how you know that it's a legit Asher's production.
Yeah. I'll be there. No. I asked her, I'm like, what time you want me to? She was like, probably about 3 or 4. It's been like, the adult stuff's going on. I'm like, oh, okay. I can share.
You roll up covered in cat hair and spiced rum.
Yeah. That's me.
Still the hottest bitch in the place.
What do you talk? What's hotter than cat hair and spiced rum? I don't know.
Oh, no, nothing to me.
Right. So you walk into the shop, okay, and then you go. There's like another room you have to like cross into, and then there's another room, and that room happens to be the room that Ann and I have decorated. And the room is supposed to be like a it tells the story of private ufologist investigator Felix and his descent into madness as he continues to study UFOs and gets absolutely nowhere. And he may or may not have been abducted. He may or may not have been taken by the Men in Black. There is a story to the room. We've created a whole story.
Did you guys create that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's,
that's really cool.
Yeah, look for the story, and the I sent Pato a little preview picture, but that's definitely not the whole room. It's just like one corner of the room. It's a whole big thing, and it's really neat. The room looks crazy. It, kind of as the timeline goes on and we get to like modern day UFO sightings, he's just kind of getting crazier and crazier, and it is really neat. So. Come check that out. Now, the cool thing about everything, though, in that room, aside from there's like these note cards, because there's this whole fucking wall, and it's got all these articles and all these documents and all these, sighting reports and this, that, and the other. But then there's like note cards written on them of like roughly what they are, or, just kind of little blurbs here and there. But all the articles, all the documents, all the sightings, those are all real, all of them. And there's probably hundreds in this room. So
that is a really neat art installation that you should look at kind of repeating somewhere else.
Well, I might. Well, yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. I don't know how or why or what, but because that's not
just
really
throwing it out there. If you
it's the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I don't,
if you got an extra bedroom, you want Asher's to spice up.
I sure will. I'll come to your house. I'll set it up. But it is it is very, very interesting. Like I said, it does tell a story. And then as you leave that room, there's another room. There's a curtain hanging up on the wall. When you pull back that curtain, that's when you get into the alien world. This is the Blacklight exhibit. Tons of awesome artwork in there made by local artists. You can purchase most of it. It's really fucking cool. I've taken pictures of some of the stuff. I'm gonna post it online. It's just, it's filled with all kinds of really neat stuff. So at minimum, come see it. Just come check it out. It's very cool. You could spend all day, and we've been calling it the X-Files room. reading all those fucking articles and shit if you want to, you know.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
So it's it's very cool. Like I said, I'll be there and I'll be talking to people about UFOs and it'll be great. So come check me out. But it's done. We did it, and it is ready to go. It's again March 6th from 1 to 9, but I'll be there about 3 or 4 at the Secret Chamber House of Oddities and Artwork in Fairborn, Ohio.
Oh. So now what happens between like 1 and 3 and 4? Like the place things opens at 1, but you don't get there till 3 or 4. They're gonna let people walk through there without you?
Yeah, I mean she'll be there.
Yeah, okay.
You know, she's gonna have other people there. I mean, I could show up at like 1. She's just in her mind, she thinks that like kids and stuff are gonna show up earlier, and like if I don't want to deal with that, I should come a little later. And I see what she's, you know, what she means, I guess. But okay, whatever. I'll be there between 3 and 4. So we did that, and you know, I get to spend a bunch of time with Anne this weekend, which is always great because I miss her. And what else did I do? I don't know. I think that's really it. I think
How was Joe Bob Friday?
It was okay. I mean, again, Anne came over and, you know, we hung out. I don't remember what the movies were. It was Witchboard and something with William Shatner in it. I don't know.
Spiders, Kingdom of the Spiders?
No, no. Mm-mm. No, it wasn't. I don't remember what it was. I really didn't have an interest in either. I don't like supernatural movies.
Yeah, I never Ghosts. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's not my jam either. I like a good monster.
I don't know if they were really ghosts. I don't really know what they were. I don't know. Again, Anne was over. We were busy talking. I was distracted. So, but we Joe Bobbed, you know. And I just, you know, I wasn't too into whatever it was that was being shown. So sometimes it be like that. Sometimes you get really good Joe Bob nights, and sometimes you don't. Most of the time, I mean, Joe Bob's meant to be watched in a group, and you know, that's what it is. It's really hard to sit there on your own. I mean, that's why you do the Twitter thing, right? Because if you're by yourself, you know, makes it a lot more interesting if you have somebody else to talk to about it. You know, that's the point of it. So that's what I did. That's what I've been doing. I've been working on this fucking UFO thing, and I'm relieved to have it be done. So there's that.
Yeah. The other thing I did this weekend is we recorded this month's episode, May's episode of Weird World.
We did, and it will actually be out the first Wednesday of May this time. So that is now out for you guys listening. So if you want to check out Weird World, we actually did Pat O's stomping grounds. We did Illinois.
Which I have to apologize because I feel like I mansplained the whole time because I'm actually from here. So anytime anything got brought up, I was like, wow, you know, yeah, I mean, that's over on Cicero, you know, over on 103rd and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, or, oh, yeah. It felt like it was a different experience as opposed to talking about some foreign land that I've never been before, like Idaho. You know what I mean? I felt like it was a little too close. It was hard to distance myself from the topic. But we'll let the audience decide. Why don't you let me know if I did a good job or not? Go subscribe to the Patreon and say this was your finest hour or this was your lowest point.
Yeah, I'm curious. I didn't feel that way. So I don't know.
Well, that's
I felt
good.
like, you know, I felt like I don't know. I guess I didn't really feel any type of way about it.
Yeah, it was on par with everything
you know?
else. Yeah.
It was good. It was, you know, one of the better episodes, I think. Some of them aren't great, but that's only because the states themselves don't have a bunch of stuff to them, you know.
Sure. We got to talk about Thunderbirds and Liars Club and
ass. We got to talk about ass.
We did. Did we talk about ass?
The abominable swamp.
Oh yeah, that guy. We certainly did. And then the other thing I did while we recorded that episode was book the hotel rooms for Monster Fest and Withville. So that shit's happening. No ifs, ands, or buts. Those rooms are booked. That shit is confirmed. We will be at Monster Fest the weekend of the 3rd, June 3rd, and then Withville the weekend of the 10th.
Well, I was always going to be at both. I don't know.
I know. Well, now I've mentally definitely this is fucking happening. So Yeah, and we're staying with everyone else for Withville. For Monster Fest, we didn't get into that the original where the venue is, but the secondary place that was part of their room block we got into. So hopefully we'll be with some other people. Let us know where you're staying for Monster Fest.
I mean, it don't matter. They're close enough, you know.
Sure.
we're
Sure.
We're gonna be there. I'm gonna be wherever, you know,
wherever the party's at. Exactly.
Wherever the party's at. Yeah, exactly. At least the ones that I'm invited to, anyway. So.
Yeah, let us know where the parties are going to be at for Monster Fest.
Yeah,
for Withville, I already know because that's definitely I'm taking leadership of that one. But
Pato's hosting the party for Monster Fest or Withville apparently.
Oh yeah, in the parking lot of the two hotels. I mean, there's there's not that much. There's not much that real estate to wander around. I mean, I'm sure they'll do the brewery thing afterwards, like we did last time, and then that parking lot, man, where they'll let you drink till 5 a.m. But Monster Fest, definitely hit us up. Wow. A good time.
You want some news?
Yeah. What's new?
Got some news here. Got three items. So there was another cattle mutilation that took place in Texas. So investigations are ramping up there. What's interesting about the cattle mutilations is that now this is the 7th one in that area, and they have gotten the it's not autopsy. It's called something else when it's an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. They got the animal autopsy back for one of the cows, and what they found was the cause of death was allegedly pneumonia. Which listen, I may live in Ohio. I may be somebody who has never traveled outside of the country. However, I've never met a pneumonia that takes your tongue and your rectum and your and your uterus and drains you of all your blood.
That's because cows just do that sometimes. I mean, it's of course you've never seen that. It doesn't do that to Ohioans.
Yeah,
it does that to bovines.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I don't know. It's a little strange. That's a whole other fucking weird piece to this puzzle. Who knows what the hell's going on? But lots of people have eyes on it now, so it is bringing. I mean, it's getting some attention, which is we don't really see that a lot.
Yeah, there's a steers and queers joke there about the cows missing their buttholes, but I'm not. I don't have the mental fortitude to make it right now. So just write it yourself and then hit us up on Twitter or call us at 773-59-WEIRD.
Always welcome to those phone calls. Right. And these ones are a bit just kind of silly. So, of course, in true Ohio man fashion, 2 Ohio men had the police called on them outside of a Burger King because they were in a fight. And apparently there was...
Were they fighting over you?
No,
be honest.
Of course. Yeah, of course. You don't hang out at Burger King.
Ashley!
Burger King where you can have it your way, So I guess there's a guy that stands outside of this particular Burger King, and I honestly, I couldn't figure out where the hell this was at exactly. It wasn't here, but it was somewhere in Ohio. But there's a panhandler that stands outside of this local Burger King, and he was in a very aggressive argument with another man. And when the cops showed up, what they discovered is that they were fighting about Bigfoot. I don't know exactly what about. There was more details.
Wow. They were fighting about whether or not Bigfoot was the ghost of a Neanderthal.
Could have been, yeah.
Could
have been. They were in a very, it was so aggressive the cops had to come out. So, the cops came out and they de-escalated the situation and then went on about their day, I guess. So that's what Ohioans do.
No, I think that's only what poor people do. Is fight about Bigfoot.
No, there's tons of people in the Bigfoot community that have money, unfortunately.
No, I'm just saying. I'm latching onto the panhandler thing. No, I don't know. I think really we should unify and work together and share our evidence with one another and our theories.
Yeah.
And more importantly, listen to what the other guy has to say,
I don't
you're already at Burger King. You're both at Burger King. You got more in common with each other than you do other people that aren't at Burger King, right? You've already chosen to go the Burger King route, not the McDonald's route. And for that, I applaud you. I am a huge fan of Burger King. Burger King is probably my favorite fast food chain my nationwide. If you talk about like the big ones, right? I mean, I like Portillo's and shit like that, or Maxwell Street better than most. But I'm a huge fan of Burger King. So the idea of me getting violent with another Burger King patron because we disagree about some kind of lesser topic, it's heartbreaking. You know what I mean?
Bigfoot is a lesser topic than Burger King.
I mean, and like in the grand scheme, first of all, this is classic PSYOP Division 101. We have more things in common, all right, than we give ourselves credit for. Let's accentuate the things that we can share and not magnify the things that separate us, right? That's what they want us to do, right? My 2 cents. That's it. I'm sorry. What's your third news piece?
My third news piece is also very strange. Let's talk about it. In Germany, a gentleman in Germany called the police because he has a pond in his on his property, and his over 80 goldfish came up missing. Okay, that part's not really the weird part. The weird part is about 48 hours later, he called the police again, saying, "You know what? Never mind. My goldfish are back." So somebody took his goldfish just to return them. Why? And it's unfortunate because here's the fucked up thing about it is that the police are like, well, we're still trying to figure out who it was, right? Because that guy's still gonna get in trouble, and it's like, no, don't fucking do that, because like I want to know who the motherfucker is that took all these goldfish. First of all, why did you do it?
How did you collect and transport it?
Right.
Yeah.
And then how did you go about doing this? Where did you keep them? And then what the fuck made you decide to return them back? I mean, I am genuinely invested and interested and curious about the thought process of the goldfish caper.
So yeah, that was fucking crazy. I guess that goldfish story, we might have touched on something there.
We broke it. It was truly anomalous, and it wasn't actually a person at all. It was fucking aliens. Now they're alien goldfish.
It's always the stories you least suspect. When you just start pulling on those threads, you never know what's going to unravel.
They're not actual goldfish now. They're drones spying on the fucking property owner. I don't know what happened. Technical difficulties, you guys. It's all Pato's fault somehow.
Sure.
So anyway, let's get on to the show, right? The topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Man, what a fun one. Pat, you've never heard of this incident before, have you?
I had never. In fact, when you texted it to me, I thought this bitch is drunk. And she is, she misspelled Virginia. And then I looked it up and saw no. I mean, I don't know if you could have still been drunk, but at least that was not a typo. This is the Varginha Brazilian UFO incident. And no, this one, at first I thought maybe I had heard about it because I have heard of some stuff about South America as kind of a they get a decent amount of excitement down there. But this one specifically, I was not familiar with.
So this is Varginha. Is how it's pronounced, Varginha. Okay. I'm surprised. I didn't realize that you had thought it was Virginia. I thought that because I can't be the only one that this obviously looks like vagina, right? Vargina, right?
Or Virginia, but yeah, somewhere in there.
It's definitely Vargina is what I had read a million times over, and it's not that. It's basically Virginia, but Varginha, which is a municipality in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole situation is very, very interesting. I wanted to talk about it because I don't know why, but people are talking about this a lot lately, and I don't understand it.
Because I mean, are you talking about since October of last year?
No, I'm talking about since the last 3 weeks. I understand there was a documentary about it.
Yeah. Okay. No.
But this is like the last couple of weeks. I've seen people talk about this everywhere. And I don't know why. I think that there are people, I believe people within the UFO disclosure community. I don't fuck with the UFO bros. I just, for the most part, I don't fuck with any of these kind of extremist groups of people, right? I don't fuck with the Bigfoot bros. I don't fuck with the UFO bros. Don't fuck with the paranormal investigators. You're all nuts, You all kind of suck in some type of way. All your communities are terrible. And I'm just saying, just
The only
putting
one that's not is the Patreon Discord cult that's not a cult dedicated to Ashers. That is the only reliable community worth
it is.
joining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all weird in our own ways, and we can all get along about it.
And my forthcoming Gamera sex cult that will take place just outside Churubusco.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then,
Right.
yes, exactly. You just, you got to be nice to each other. But I believe that there's been like a push for the U.S. government and Arrow to investigate this incident a little bit more because we got our hands on the cookie jar on this one, apparently, allegedly. Okay, so let's just kind of start at the beginning and we'll go from there. So, sometime in January 1996, there was a ton of people who were allegedly seeing UFOs in, Varginha. And a lot of people were seeing a bunch of stuff, but one in particular happened. And that's kind of, I don't really know which one came first, but we're going to start with the UFO crash that allegedly happened here. So multiple witnesses had watched as a cigar-shaped craft of some sort fell from the sky. It had white smoke coming out of it, and a nice gentleman by the name of Carlos de Souza thought that this was a like an airplane, right? He didn't know what it was, so he decides to track it, and he does, and he comes to the spot where this thing had supposedly crash landed. He said that he saw debris everywhere, but this is important. There was a really strong smell in the area. He said that it smelled a lot like ammonia. He said it was so strong that he had to, cover his nose to kind of, wade through the debris. And I mean, it made his eyes really watery and things like that. So while he's looking around at the debris, he decides to pick a piece up. He said it looked like aluminum. And, he took that piece of aluminum, he crushed it up. And when he was done crushing it up, he let go of it and it just immediately popped right back into shape. We've heard of this before, right?
Right, from Roswell.
Yeah, exactly. And then, while he's kind of looking around the area trying to figure out what in the hell, a bunch of military trucks pull up and tell him to leave at gunpoint. So he does. And then what happened next was, again, allegedly, the government cordoned off this whole area, wouldn't let anybody in, and they were removing debris and bodies from the scene. And it wasn't just Mr. D'Souza that saw this. Multiple people saw this happen. And, again, they were being threatened by, the military there. You can't come any closer. It was military, it was the firefighters, it was police. One thing you got to understand about a lot of countries, not in America, but most countries, their police officers and their firefighters are military.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all kind of one of the same. So again, big military presence in the area. Whatever. Okay. And then on January 20th, again, it's hard to tell if this crash happened before or after January 20th. But on January 20th, a big thing happened. 3 young women, 2 sisters and one of their friends were kind of walking around that area. Not that area, just outside. And they happened upon a strange creature that was kind of hiding in like bushes. They said that the creature was 4 feet tall. It had brown, oily skin. It had V-shaped feet that were like 2 fingers, but they were feet. A large head and then huge glowing red eyes. Of course, the girls were terrified of this thing, but really what 2 of them reported was that, when they looked at this thing, it looked sad and scared. And, they kind of got that from it, but they didn't stay very long to ask if it needed any help. They left.
Right.
Okay, they fucking left. And they went back home and told their mom that, they had seen the devil. They didn't know how to describe this thing. So, could it have been something from this crash that they had seen that had survived and gotten away? Who knows? I'm going to kind of take a pause there for a second. Pato, let you comment on either the crash itself or the alien encounter.
I I mean, the crash sounds pretty legit. That's what would happen is the military would come in and kind of clean up everything. And you're right about these. I don't want to say third world countries 'cause it's not a third world country, but yeah, where military and social services are kind of tied in closely to each other. Um, it's interesting that that aliens behaving like the pilot of the that craft that crashed, and it's now kind of like running around hiding. That's kind of like what we had said about the Dover Demon was that it exhibited characteristics of something that had kind of found itself here and was just as terrified of its surroundings as we would be if we kind of wound up somewhere and we didn't understand what was going on, right? And that seems to be pretty much exactly how this one's behaving. You know,
Yeah.
um, it's lost.
I mean, you would think that, just kind of the way that they described, it being fearful, um, I don't know. I guess seemed a little bit more animalistic than anything. But let's be honest here. How long were they within the vicinity of this thing before they fucking left,
Mhm.
to really get any other intelligent detail about it? You know, I suppose if I were me as a person lost in the woods somewhere and somebody randomly came upon me, I'd probably be pretty shocked, first of all, to come across another human being, and also very scared, and probably also very oily. And, so I don't know. Um, so that happened. Okay. That was an event that happened. And this is where it gets, if you didn't think that it was already crazy enough, this is where it gets crazy. Um, 3 hours after the three women had allegedly seen this thing, the creature was actually spotted by three military, or by three, I guess, police officers, military police officers.
Mhm.
And they had, they come across it, ran across the road, and they had decided to capture it. And they did. They were able to successfully capture the creature. Um, and they took it and they took it to a nearby hospital. So one of the officers, his name's Marco Cherez, he actually grabbed this thing with his bare hands. Okay. And then they transported it off, they took it away. But a couple of hours after this had happened, Cherez goes home and he stunk really bad. He smelled really bad. And he started to feel like he himself was really greasy and oily and things like that. Um, then he kind of started losing control of his limbs and couldn't really, again, couldn't really control them. And he broke out in a fever. Therese ended up going to the hospital and he had developed this horrible like skin rash and like this infection. I mean, it was basically like an autoimmune disorder that was happening. His body was attacking itself. And he died. 3 weeks later, he died.
Yeah.
And some people, there's people that say that the story isn't real. We kind of mentioned this picking up popularity. Well, one of the reasons why this got revisited again is because of a documentary called Moment of Contact came out in October of 2022. I mean, that filmmaker interviews the sister, talks to the sister of this man. So you're telling me that this woman just made up this whole brother that didn't really exist and he died? And I mean, come on now, that's a little much. Now, what they're saying happened, what the official reports are, is that he had a couple of days before this incident, he had a tumor that was like right underneath his armpit, and they think that's kind of what caused him to die somehow.
Yeah, and the other explanation was that the aliens allegedly seen in the hospital were actually an expected couple who had dwarfism. So there was pregnant dwarfs in the hospital at the time.
I did not read that anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you added that.
Yes, that is off Wikipedia, which, as we know from our conversation today, as long as there is, as long as there's a
Citation.
reference, it's cited, then Wikipedia can be taken seriously.
Yes.
So yeah, as reported by Brett Leuter in the 2012 UFO Hunters Guide. Brazilian government denied conspiracy theorists' claims that it was hiding evidence of extraterrestrials. Brazilian authorities also reported that the aliens allegedly seen in the hospital were actually an expectant couple who had dwarfism.
I did not read about any people that had personally seen aliens within the hospital. However, a whistleblower came forward and claimed that he transported the creature's remains from the hospital to the ESA Army base. And what he said about it is that, he saw this thing. It was like sitting in like a box. And because that's as good as we could do. It was a nice box, but it's sitting in a box.
This is Brazil. I mean,
right. Come on. No, Brazil's not. Brazil's actually pretty nice. It's a very nice area. Anyway, and he was saying that he showed up to see this thing and transported out to the base. He said that there were people there taking pictures and video, and it's there. We have the evidence of this thing. It's never been released because the government has it, and the government allegedly has the body. Well, this is where the United States government kind of gets involved. Okay, so another person comes forward, a former air traffic control person comes forward and says that the U.S. Air Force had landed unannounced in the area, and then dispatched 2 helicopters to, Varginha to. I just can't get over that. That's what it looks like. Had dispatched them to the area to collect something. What that something was, who knows? Could it have been the body? Could it have been the debris? Could it have been everything? And then what did we do with it when we took it? Why would they just give that up to us to begin with? Why would they be like, here, it's your problem? Maybe that's why.
Well, I think that's something that's. I don't want to derail your thing, so I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say like that. Think about that, like in the theater of like geopolitics, where like, do you think that maybe because I mean, we do live in the United States, and we are kind of the, I don't HNICs around here. You know what I mean? Like we run shit. But do you think that like maybe as long as it's not like Iran or like a country that we're having like tense relations with, right? Or like, North Korea or something. But, if there was some UFO shenanigans going on and some of these countries that we're kind of probably on good terms with that but still aren't ours, they're not, it's not the United States, it's Brazil. Do you think that we could just kind of roll up and be like, hey guys, we got it from here? And if Brazil was like, back the fuck off, this is Brazil. And we're like, yeah, exactly, this is Brazil. Like, we're here to take your UFO shit.
No, so something happens to America. This is going to go a little bit off topic, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Something happens to Americans. We are brainwashed from fucking birth to believe that we are so goddamn important and we're so above the whole rest of the world, and we're not. It's a blindness that we have. We're told that, we're the greatest country ever. People die to come here. Well, sure, people do die to come here, but you're talking people that die to come here from really, really fucked up places. Brazil's not one of those fucked up places. South America in general is not one of those fucked up places. It's not a fucking, it dates way back. I learned about this through actually the Mondo films of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's like a really racist thing that we do, that we act like these other countries are really primitive, and they're really not. And again, they've got their shit together just as much as we do. So that's kind of an aspect of this that I think does play a part. The fact that like we as Americans might have like caught wind of the story, and we may have just added the bit where all of a sudden the US is involved with this alien deal. Because why would we be? Why the fuck would Brazil give us alien bodies and crash debris? I mean, what do they get out of it? They don't. How would the US government even know unless Brazil was like, hey, we got this thing, do you guys want it? Why would they give it up?
Well, how would the U.S. government know if they were tracking it on radar or something, or they saw something on their end that made them know. Because I mean, our radar capabilities extend above our airspace, right? Like we do kind of know what's happening in other parts of the globe. So it could be, and who knows where if this thing came in from outer space, who knows where it entered Earth's atmosphere, right? It might not have just done it directly on top of Brazil and then, headed straight to Earth. Maybe it kind of came in on a descent from somewhere else that is more in an area that we monitor. I mean, I don't think it's completely ridiculous to think that the United States would just kind of show up uninvited to this party. I get what you're saying, though. I think that, yeah, maybe sometimes we do tend to think of other countries. Like I said, I didn't want to call it a third world shithole, but I mean, there's some countries that are, and there's some countries that aren't.
But we
Brazil's
have
probably
third
one
world
that's not.
shitholes. Have you ever been to Gary, Indiana? Like,
Dude, this you're taking this completely out of context. I understand. I understand that,
I'm
right?
not trying to convince you. Just understand that. For people listening, because I think that, again, well, I know that most of our audience is from America. But I think that, again, totally different topic for another day. Americans are brainwashed to think that we are better than everybody, and we're not.
I think that there are certain parts of the globe, not necessarily Brazil, but there are certain parts of the globe, and I said globe, not flat Earth, where a UFO could crash and the local people might not have the same resources or intelligence to deal with such a thing as the United States does. And I could see the United States inserting themselves into that situation, not only at the benefit of the indigenous people, but to make sure that any intelligence that was gathered by them. And yes, we are. Listen, this isn't about colonialism. This isn't about white pride or anything like that. But you better believe that we have better technology and better intelligence than certain parts of this the fucking world. Yes, we do. And that's not me saying beating the war drum and being a fucking jingoist. That's just fucking reality, right? I'm not, and once again, I'm not saying that Brazil is one of those places, right? I'm just saying that, yeah, it's an interesting thing to consider that, like, if a UFO crashes in some of these countries, that the United States is just going to insert themselves into that situation and say, okay, stand down. We know this is sovereign land, but we're taking this over. And maybe they don't do that. I don't know.
Yeah,
we can move on if you want.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, just because of my own personal beliefs about how this country operates, I find that part of the story to be a little strange. Out of everything, right? Out of everything involved with the story, it's that part of the story that I'm like, I don't know. Who knows? I think a really good piece of information that we should do as a collective, UFO bros, I'm talking to you, is take a look at what was happening in January of 1996 as far as the U.S. budget goes, right? Because Brazil's not going to be like, hey, we got a UFO and fucking aliens, we're just going to give them to you for free. Ain't going to happen, right? So they got something out of it. If that happened, they got something out of it. What is it that they got out of it? Have we tracked that far? Probably not. Am I going to do it? No. But I think that would be something that we should probably, again, as a community, look into and see if that even makes any sense. But what does it matter if it's here or if it's in Brazil? Maybe Brazil still has them. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're here sitting in fucking hangar 18. Who knows? I don't think that part really matters. But just all the moving parts to the story in general, I think that it is valid. I think that there is definitely something to this. I think that something happened here at this little municipality of Brazil. And I don't know. I don't feel like it's talked about enough. Pato, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. This was a new story to me. So definitely not talked about enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's one of those things where, like, it's a this is a big deal. I mean, at minimum, you got the fucking guy that died. Someone died over this thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're just telling me that these women see the exact same fucking thing that they ended up capturing, and then he dies, and they're not related at all. They don't know each other. But you're saying that this was nothing. This was mass hysteria. Eventually, the government did put out a tidbit of information that they believed that the women, what they actually saw was a local homeless man.
Yeah.
That is what they said, covered
They
in
even
mud.
they even had a name for him.
There's a couple of them,
Yeah.
there that I've come across. So, but you're telling me the local homeless man has fucking deformed feet that are shaped in a V? Does he have the fucking lobster boy disease, whatever it's called? Oh my gosh. I'm talking about lobster boy.
Yeah.
We've talked about lobster boy before. I think we talked
Yeah.
about lobster boy in one of the I think it was the Florida episode of Weird World. Because he killed his family, and then somebody killed him, and anyway. You're really missing out if you're not checking out the Patreon. I'm telling you, there's some interesting stuff there. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of people refer to this as, Brazil's Roswell. I think it does sound very similar. And, at that time in 1996, well, hell, the Roswell story was already, 50 years old. you know? So if there were lies to be told here, it's not like, people couldn't know. But then again, there comes that big headed American coming in. Do people in Brazil know about Roswell? I don't know about Brazil happenings. Obviously, again, people in the US don't know about Brazil happenings. They don't know about this incident. So is it safe to assume that Brazil would know about Roswell back in 96 where there's barely internet?
Yeah. I'm seeing that there was the local zoo had reports of people of animals dying um later that year from February to April.
Yeah,
About
I saw
five
that.
yeah, 5 animals died. Um that there's a blackening of the stomach. Necropsy.
There we go.
That's what it's called when
Necropsy.
you do an
Yep.
autopsy on an animal. Detected a blackening of the stomach and intestinal mucosa of the animals. Poisoning was even considered, but nothing was ever detected. According to him, the deer, tapir, and ocelot died. That was the problem. They had the same symptoms at necropsy, but they were animals of different species that feed in different ways. They were also in different places of the zoo. And there was no bacteria either in the tests, so that's what makes the thing so complicated. Um, so yeah, I mean that's interesting to consider because I've never in all the UFO stuff and all of the like face to face encounters that people have had, I can't think of I can't think of too many where people kind of got sick from the touch. You know what I mean? I mean, you have people like that show you have radiation poisoning or stuff like that, but where like their skin gave off some kind of substance that could have poisoned somebody. And that's something that would make sense. I mean, you don't know what kind of look at War of the Worlds. Why did War of the Worlds have like in that story? Now, granted, that's just a fucking story, but how did the Martians die in War of the Worlds? We won because they couldn't handle our oxygen. You
Hmm.
know, something that should be considered about all these things that like these cryptids that kind of pop up, not cryptids, but these creatures that are spotted, the Dover demon or whatever that runs around for a little bit and then is never seen again. Maybe our air is toxic to them. Maybe the environment's different. Maybe the way that they eat or the way they process food or photosynthesis or whatever is completely different because they're from a different planet, a different dimension where all kinds of shit's different. So if we entertain the idea that like something showed up and this soldier touched it and then died a couple of weeks later, um maybe these things are poisonous and they can have some kind of lasting effect, and thank god it didn't spread you know
So the main guy who's been investigating all of these claims and stuff like that, he has a very interesting theory about these creatures, specifically that creature,
Hmm.
is that instead of being carbon based, they're ammonia based.
Hmm.
And that's where that, because it wasn't just the D'Souza who had the ammonia. It was tons of people reported that overbearing ammonia smell. And that maybe when the guy had touched it and like interacted with it like that and so close like that, that he had gotten some type of poisoning from the ammonia, and that's what killed him. And that well, I mean, that kind of makes sense. That's astrophysicists have this thing about life and life on other planets. And they say that, well, it would have to be carbon life. Well, why does it have to be?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Just because we are? Because we know that we work, right? That's what we know that we are here and we are carbon based. Why the fuck would anything else have to be carbon based? That doesn't really make any sense. Especially with our periodic table of elements. I mean, hell, we're still discovering new fucking elements on that thing. We don't know everything. We just don't.
Hmm.
So something being, having a different makeup than us and being poisonous to us as well. I mean, that makes sense.
Hmm.
As well as us potentially being poisonous to them, and that's why they don't last very long here. Yeah, I agree with that. But I like that. I had never heard that theory before. An ammonia based creature. So
Yeah, I when I was younger, I was house sitting for this guy, and he had a bunch of old heavy metal magazines, and I was reading them. And there was this one, like, uh, I guess you would call it like it wasn't a story, but it was like just a little section of the book, one of the issues, and it was alien musical instruments, right? And they were the most bizarre looking things you could even think of. So when we think of aliens, like, when you think of like alien musical instruments, what are you thinking of? You're thinking of something that, like, you look at like the Star Wars. Well, I know you haven't seen Star. Well, no, you haven't seen the first Star Wars.
I've
When they
seen
go to pick up your little cabin boy Han Solo from the Mos Eisley Cantina, and there's all those aliens in the cantina playing in the band, right? Like, what are they doing? Like, there's the one group of grays that are playing like clarinets, and they don't look exactly like clarinets, but they kind of look like clarinets. Or in Return of the Jedi, when you have Max Grebo and he's playing the keyboards or whatever, and of course it's a kooky alien keyboard, but it's still a keyboard. So like we anticipate some kind of similarity, and then we think, oh, but it'll be weird and alien, right? And the reality is, no, it doesn't have to look like anything that we could possibly even conceptualize. It can be completely fucking different, you know. So like you were saying about the carbon-based life form. Yeah, I mean that's assuming that like we share that fundamental thing in common, right? Once you throw that out the window and you say, well, no, they don't even have to have that. We don't even have to have that link in common. It can even from Jump Street, we can be completely different. Then all bets are off. And I think that's what we need to we need to really let our imagination stay open when we try to conceptualize these things, because there's no reason to think that they're going to be bipedal, or there's no reason to think that like they're going to have the same genetic makeup, or they're going to be built the same way, or they're going to eat the same way, or they're going to shit the same way. You know what I mean? That thing could have been pissing through its skin the entire time. And what that serviceman got was like interdimensional fucking diphtheria from like getting stink palmed by the thing. You know,
yeah, sure.
we don't know.
I mean, it could have been sick.
Right.
Pass something on the old dude, and well, he got it, and he's dead now. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's tons of reasons why that could have happened. But he touched it. I think that the difference here is like there's not. There's tons of people that come across these things. There's hardly anybody that touch these things.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's what did it for him. Because what, they fucking put the thing in the car, and then the other two guys in the same fucking car didn't. They're fine. I mean, they didn't touch it. What's their deal? Maybe they're dead now. I don't know. Their names I don't think have ever been disclosed, and so there's that. So I don't know.
Yeah, quit touching that shit, man.
Yeah, don't touch it with your bare hand. I live in an apartment that has a pond right by the main road, and turtles all the time like to cross the main road there, and I can't even tell you how many turtles I've had to save. Okay, I keep a towel in my car so that way when I go to move the turtle, I don't have to touch it directly because you don't want to, right? They got fucking all kinds of shit that you don't want, You got to be able to. You got to have your turtle towel in the car to move your turtle. That's what these guys are missing out on. They didn't have the turtle towel.
No, they didn't.
Um,
But you know what? I'll be honest. This was 1996, and something that I found out recently, actually not that long ago. When I was younger, like you could go get turtles. You could go buy them at the pet store, right? And they had to be a certain size because I think when they're littler, like they secrete more salmonella or something. But you could get a turtle. You could get like a little box turtle or whatever. And now they don't sell them that size anymore. Like they've changed that. Whatever the size that you used to be able to get turtles at, so let's say like when I was a kid, you had to get turtles. They had to be at least 6 inches in diameter or bigger, right? Now it's like 1.5 feet because they decided that that wasn't safe enough.
Huh.
So yeah, turtles are fucking dirty, yo. Like I wouldn't let my kid touch a turtle, and they've even changed the laws about what kind of turtles you could touch.
yeah, almost every reptile has salmonella, and will give you salmonella. So you have to, like, if you're going to own them or touch them or whatever, you have to wash your hands immediately afterwards. So I mean, if we have animals here that live here and now,
Yeah,
why wouldn't there be animals in the universe that are like that?
imagine some shit from space, bro.
Right.
That's a space turtle.
Space
But
turtle.
You already know where I'm going with this.
I already know.
That's why we should touch each other, and not. That's why Gamera wants us to touch each other because we're too powerful to touch him. Only I am strong enough to touch Gamera. You may touch Gamera through me.
They have to touch you to touch Gamera.
Yes. And my compound in Churubusco. Right outside Churubusco.
I knew it. How do we circle all the way back to fucking Gamera?
My Gamera sex cult?
Yeah.
Because it's the fucking truth. It's the way.
That's the way, obviously.
It's the way. And we will be taking applicants at Monster Fest. I got to come up with, pins or like some kind of membership card.
You should, yeah.
If you want in on the Gamera sex cult.
That'd be a really good idea, actually.
Right.
You should do that. So, I don't know. That fucking guy died. The government, some government somewhere, whether it be Brazil or the United States, has the body of this thing, allegedly. And there's people out there that think that this whole thing is just fucking kooky bullshit, and it's not real. Like I said, I think there's something to it. I think this is a great story, even if it's not real. Man, that's a great story. This is a fun one. I like this. This is way cooler than our Roswell.
Yeah. At
like
least there's more interaction with the occupants. You know what I mean?
Right. Ours is just they were all dead and taken and autopsied, and then that guy released the video of them being autopsied.
Yeah. Although supposedly there's video footage of this too, and there's a documentary coming out, but that has not seen the light of day yet, so I wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that. That's what people. Well, and that's what the one guy said. They were taking videos and shit of the creature at the hospital. They were all baffled. He also said that it smelled really badly like ammonia, but you would have kind of expect an ammonia smell at a hospital. So that's not surprising. But yeah, I mean, and then residents allegedly, I don't know, took some video somehow in 1996, and that's none of it's ever come to light, but there's pictures and videos out there somewhere, and we're just waiting on it. So a lot of people want to confront the U.S. government about this incident, but I'm pretty sure they're just going to be like, well, we don't know nothing about it.
Yeah,
they've done that already. We've brought up cases to them, and they've just been like, during the fucking, not the last UAP hearing, but the one before that, somebody was drilling the fucking guy about Malmstrom. and that's when the fucking UFO took all of our nukes offline. And
I remember you bringing that up. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, that's kind of a big deal that happened. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, we don't know nothing about that. That never." But like that happened.
Right. Well, that's like a whole like subsection of UFO reports is
Yeah,
like around military bases where like they fucked with. And I think that's even kind of like the catalyst to get Congress to take the time to spend. Although I don't know. Now it's like, why do they even do it? Because they're not even doing it the right way.
right.
It's like, who was this? Who did this really benefit? Like, what was the deal with all
Yeah,
that? I don't know.
yeah, I agree. And that is a whole subset. But I think Malmstrom is the most documented incident of something like that happening. Which is scary. That's scary that something can fuck with us like that, and we're just helpless. But that's aliens for you, man. We're fucked compared to them. If aliens wanted to invade us, they could, and that's the bottom line. We are
Yeah,
at their fucking mercy.
but it doesn't seem like. I mean, we've never seen their craft do anything but like outmaneuver ours. We've never seen them like deploy weaponry, as far as I know. I could be completely wrong, but I mean, yeah. So supposedly they could pick things up. They got tractor beams or whatever, but they're not necessarily like shooting stuff. We don't know like what their offensive capabilities are. And then as far as like, yeah, maybe they can kind of they have some kind of psionic what like abilities that could fuck with us, but you know, I've never heard anything about them like stopping shotgun blasts. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
There's that game coming out. I think we might have talked about it on the show once or twice, the Gray Hill incident. It's a first person shooter that's coming out
yeah.
like in June. And it's about you're in a town that's being invaded by aliens, and it's a first person shooter against grays. And I think there's like stealth mechanics and there's some other stuff going on there too. But I thought that was interesting. Is like, oh, so you could just defeat grays with like a revolver and a fucking baseball bat. Like, okay, well, that doesn't seem too
Well,
threatening.
when I think about it, so I mean, you're right. I don't think we've ever seen them deploy weaponry either, except for take our shit offline.
Right.
As more defensive than offensive. Um, but when I think of things that can traverse the universe and get from their world to ours, obviously they probably have some type of bad boy weaponry that they don't feel they need to expose us to. But that aside, even if they didn't, surely they know what a nuke is, right? We don't nuke each other because, well, if we nuke this other country, we're going to piss off this other country, and then they're going to nuke us, and then the whole world's we're going to kill the whole planet. Aliens don't give a fuck if they kill our planet. They don't care if they piss off other countries here. Why would they? They could nuke the whole fucking earth, kill us all, and who cares? They suffer no consequences from it. So at like the bare minimum, I don't know. That's where my thought goes. Again, if they wanted, I don't think they want to. If they wanted to kill us all, they could. Again, if they wanted to invade, they could, and they'd be fine.
Yeah.
But they don't, and so we should be thankful to our alien overlords that they don't, fuck us. You should be grateful for, for that we get to live every day without aliens fucking our shit up.
All praise Zorg.
Again, I guess they have no reason to. What do we do? We can't get to them. Who cares? And that's another thing. We can't defend ourselves against a nuke. That's just the way it is. And then what? We're going to go fucking attack their world? No, we're not. We can't get there. We don't know where they live.
Right.
I don't know.
But you know who doesn't have to worry about that?
Who's that pedo?
The Gamoran sex cult.
Why do you not have to worry about that? Because you have a protector?
Right, because we communicate with Gamera, and he's protector of all the children.
Yeah. That's true.
Not actual children. Our children at heart. Actually, there's no children allowed at this thing.
There's no children allowed.
That's the fucking rule number one.
You have to give up your kids if you want to.
Bonus points if they get taken away from you because you party too hard.
That's terrible. Oh my god.
That's like having graduated through the ROTC. Like you skip like 2 levels. if you're the non-custodial parent.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, before Pato digs himself a bigger hole that only Gamera will be able to free him from.
Gamera.
Gamera.
So now, if it's Gamera, does that mean that our we can't call like the new playground Gamora? You gotta be very careful about that because that has biblical connotations. That was wiped out.
I'm going to call him Gamera, and he's going to visit Varginha, Brazil, and
Sure.
the children there from the oiled up alien that's terrorizing the town.
Wow. Sounds good.
That's what I got to say about that. Anyway, all right, I'm done babbling. Okay, well, with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.